Discover how a simple leaf transcended time, becoming a symbol of elegance and culture. This is nannuoshan, I am Gabriele. Today we are taking a unique journey through Chinese tea history. Usually people think a tea preparation when they think about the evolution of tea over time. It is mentioned that in the Tang dynasty tea was boiled and grounded. Then in the Song dynasty it was whisked, like today's matcha in Japan, and then later on in the Ming dynasty the loose leaf tea as we know it today was discovered and introduced. But now let's think a moment. Chinese tea history is way longer. It started well before the Tang dynasty and also ended way later than the Ming dynasty. In fact, it never ended. It's still today. We are still doing tea history today. Moreover, tea, as you know, is not only about preparation. It's way more than that. So let's review the Chinese tea history more from a cultural perspective and embracing the time that goes from the millennia ago up to modern era. And let's not look only about the preparation, but let's widen it. So take a good tea. I have a lot of leaves here with me, beautiful actually, and sit down, relax, and have a tea along with me. And while we drink tea, I will tell you which are the 4 phases of the cultural history of tea in China. To give it a little bit of a moment here, then we get started. So now that you're ready with your tea, go back millennia. Go back to ancient times and imagine Shennong, the god of the 5 grains, discovering tea for the first time. Shennong, also known as the Great Emperor, was discovering tea, that's according to legend, right? Back in 28th century before the current era. At that time there was a Shennong that is a god for agriculture and medicine, and the tea was introduced as a medical herb. It was used in sacrificial rites and as for healing purposes. It remains like that for many centuries, and we can refer to this first phase as tea as medicine that goes from ancient times, we say the 28th century before current era, to the Han Dynasty, 220 of the current era. Many centuries later, tea transforms. It's no more only a medical herb, but it becomes a staple, akin of what food is nowadays. So really, tea at that time was was part of the diet. I have a rock tea here. Yeah, and well, I mean, speaking about oolong, who wouldn't like to have their vegetables tasting like oolong? So at that time, that's the way they went. They used tea as food, but not only for pleasure, indeed, because it's rich of vitamins, of of amino acids, it has antioxidant and so on and so forth. The diet at that time wasn't as diverse as it is today, so it was really a staple. Yeah, it was cooked together with other herbs and even with food, with solid food, and drunk and eat. And yeah, I mean, this second phase that we can call tea as food goes from the spring and autumn period all the way to the Tang dynasty. Please note that the different phases do overlap. There is not a clear end of one phase before the next start. So for example, in this case, the tea as medicine phase overlaps for centuries with the tea as food phase. And anyway, when, let's say, all these aspects that once during a specific phase were the key role of tea in that phase still find place in the future phases. So for example, today, tea is also drunk for health benefit, for the same health benefit that were introduced back in the days by Shennong, right? Now we are in the Tang dynasty. In the Tang dynasty, things changed quite a bit. Lu Yu wrote the classic of tea, the first book in history written completely about tea. With the introduction of this book, Lu Yu is reporting to us a new era. Tea was elevated to an art. It is no more a utilitarian food, is no more just a staple food. Now tea is drunk for pleasure, for taste. It's pretty much like when you go out dining with your friends. You are not going to the restaurant just to fill your belly. It's also about the pleasure of the dessert at the end. And dinner is an opportunity to interact with your friends, to socialize. Also, tea in the Tang dynasty started to be an opportunity to meet other fellow tea enthusiasts, drinking tea and socialize. So this phase, tea for taste, extended from the Tang dynasty up to present days. At the end, today, most people drink tea for pleasure, for the taste, although some of us also look at the health benefit, as we said before. Now, in modern era, there is another change happening. There is, as you know, in the past few decades, the economy in China has been growing at an incredible pace. With this huge country developing so fast, a new middle class developed. And this new middle class in China is in search of exclusivity. They are in search of luxury, of items representing their status. Now, in tea, they find this. They find exclusivity because the rare whole leaf teas that we also drink are quite special, difficult to find, are also expensive, and you can range between very different tea. You know, you can afford a certain level tea, let's say like the one I'm drinking now. It's relatively expensive, but is affordable. But if you want, you can have very, very expensive rock teas that cost thousands of dollars. So in this middle class, you can move around between different ranges of tea that distinguish your status from others. Moreover, in this form of tea as a commodity, if you want, you have also a deep connection with Chinese culture and history. So you connect the two things. You have exclusivity and connection with history. This phase started in the modern era. We can call it the tea as gourmet and status symbol. It started really in the late of the 20th century. As we know very well, it's still present today. So in conclusion, tea in China is way more than a drink. It is a reflection of history, of culture, and if you want, also of evolution. Thanks a lot for joining me today in this journey through time. It has been a pleasure for me sharing this information and I hope you have enjoyed. If you want more information behind the brew, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and please leave your comments below. Happy steeping, and remember, a day without tea is like a meal without a dessert.